view is that for the majority of our industry, the new normal isn't really all that new. But for some specific tasks, when you talk about higher skilled function and office work, we're seeing new ways of organizing work.
One of the challenges that businesses in general have had, even before the pandemic, is the higher incidence of mental health issues, anxiety, stress, and other mental health factors that we've had to deal with on an increasing basis.
The main challenges will be to improve strategies in people management, develop and innovate in balanced mindset, and adapt the routines of the recruitment and selection process.
For today's episode, we will be traveling to Denmark, Brazil, and Canada. Our guests are Jacob Tigte, Head of Business Services at the Danish WC Federation, Dansk Erhverv, Fernando Calvet, Vice President at FENASERHTT, and finally, Ted Maksivovsky, President at the Association of Canadian Search, Employment and Staffing Services. And now, without further ado, here is Tom Hadley, the host of your favorite podcast.
Gracias, Manon, and welcome everybody to our latest Worldviews on the World of Work podcast. And as ever, we'll be sharing views of industry leaders from around the world on current and future World of Work challenges. And let's start this episode in Denmark with Jacob. And just to get your views, it's a good time to take stock of where we are in terms of the new normal, what it means for jobs, what it means for the world of work. So Jacob, what's your current take on that?
My view is that for the majority of our industry, the new normal isn't really all that new. But for some specific tasks, when you talk about higher skilled function and office work, we're seeing new ways of organizing work. But for the majority of our workers in low skilled jobs and more practical function, warehousing, nursing, and so on, it's pretty much the same issues as before, just with an added theme of compliance to different health and safety sectors because of the coronavirus.
Thanks, Jacob. And that's a great reminder that some of the challenges that we face do actually predate the current pandemic. So let's nip over now to Canada and to Ted and just get your views on where we are, in particular how are employers responding and what does that mean for those who provide services, including staffing services to employers in Canada?
There's lots of uncertainty on two fronts. One, obvious economic uncertainty, and especially as it relates to sales growth and revenue generation. And the second is the public health sector crisis. During that time of uncertainty, organizations, as we get to a point of turnaround, look to deal with that risk and uncertainty by tapping onto the services that we provide, and that is a flexible workforce. So I think we have a tremendous opportunity to help support that turnaround by providing the talent that organizations need to deliver on the services and get back on their feet and have that revenue growth trajectory that we so desperately need.
Thanks, Ted. And let's nip over now to Brazil and Fernando. And that's one or two of the big emerging challenges that you're seeing over there in your country, in Brazil.
In Brazil, increasingly advanced technologies, some companies and industry will cease to exist, while others will emerge. AGR sector will become more strategic.
Yes, and that's interesting, isn't it? Because we heard from Jacob that in some sectors, the workforce challenges predate the crisis, but it is absolutely right, as you say, that in other sectors there's massive challenges and the whole sectors are under huge pressure. And perhaps just to build on that, could you give us an example of maybe one specific sector that's undergoing, say, radical change in Brazil?
For instance, we have in Brazil, in the food segment, in this case, this process of production is changed by machines. And so one of these examples come from the farms. That's my opinion.
Thanks for that. And what a great example, the agriculture sector. It does remind me actually of a visit we did with RVC colleagues of an agency in the UK in Norfolk, specialised in the agricultural sector, JP Tret, and it was fascinating because it wasn't the sort of roles you'd expect. So that was an agency that specialised in roles like machinery engineers, renewable energy specialists, experts in genetics. So they were providing staffing into the agricultural sector, but a very highly skilled level. And I think that's a great example of some of the opportunities ahead for recruitment providers in sectors like agriculture, where the skill needs are evolving very, very quickly. So we've done the stock take. Let's now start looking ahead at some of the emerging challenges. And let's nip back over to Denmark and Jakob. And what are you seeing in terms of emerging challenges for the business community, but also for the HR services sector?
Well, I think the major challenge going forward will be the competition for labor. Why should people work through agencies where they can work through different forms of flexible arrangement platform, flexible arrangement directly at user companies? So we need to show an added value of working through our agencies, and that it could be something about making it clear for candidates how they can develop the working with us, and of course highlighting that we supply very organized forms of work under good condition, often in terms of collective labor agreements and so on. So we are in some ways kind of in the part of the organized labor market.
Yes, and people have choice, don't they? So as well as focusing on the added value that HR specialists and recruitment specialists provide to employers, what is the added value provided to the candidate, to the worker? Because again, that there's a proliferation of options open to people. So I think that's a really rich theme. Let's nip back over to Brazil now. And Fernando, interested to get your views on the other side of that coin, which is perhaps a little stock take on the added value we can provide to the employers, to the clients.
HR in times of crisis must be solutions to guarantee the rotation of the best talents in the organization, ensure that the sharing of values, and maintain productivity rates, in addition to organizational issues such as climate, engagement, and internal communication.
Yes, spot on. And I think drawing that link between productivity and good workforce planning, good recruitment has to be an absolute priority over the coming months and years. And you also mentioned the focus on sustainability, on climate change. How might that create new jobs? That again is a massive opportunity for the sector going forward. So let's nip back over to Canada with Ted and perhaps get your views on how you're seeing employers respond at this current time of ongoing uncertainty.
I think we've seen a pattern even before the pandemic of some of the more forward-looking organizations taking a strategic perspective and having, let's say, 25% of their workforce being flexible. It provided them with the opportunity to deal with fluctuations in terms of revenue and demand, but it also provided them with an ability to hire on a full-time basis their perm staff from within that flexible workforce once they've had an opportunity to see that worker interact with their organization and the people they're working with.
Okay, so on that, are we seeing those benefits of flexible staffing being recognised across different sectors? What's your take on that, Ted?
Where before it was manufacturing sector, wholesale, trade, transport, were major areas where flexible staffing was a key component, I can see that expanding into other industry sectors.
Thanks for that. And Jakob, over to you back in Denmark. How are you seeing some of these dynamics playing out, and where do you see the sort of emerging opportunities for the sector?
The challenges for us to keep increasing our market is very much to move into other forms of perhaps more higher skilled works that we have not been strong in so far. I think that's definitely an issue, and I think it's concerning the more higher skilled functions that we are seeing a lot of other arrangements of working. So that we definitely have to up our game to get these kind of candidates working through our industry. But I don't see our industries as challenged in the long run if we can keep doing what we're doing, do good matching, do good ensure that our candidates have the right qualifications for the job. Then I think we have a strong position to keep growing as an industry in the longer run also.
Great, and a really clear message there around breaking new ground, around the opportunities for the sector to start providing services into some of the higher skilled sectors where demand for staff will only increase over the coming months and years. So thanks a lot for that. We've looked at some of the opportunities for the sector, but let's reflect for a moment on some of the latent barriers that we face and some of the challenges, not just for the HR services sector, but for the wider business community. And one of those challenges is, of course, around well-being and mental health. So let's nip back over to Canada. Ted, really interested to get your views on this, on the mental health agenda in Canada.
I think you raise a very important point. One of the challenges that businesses in general have had, even before the pandemic, is the higher incidence of mental health issues, anxiety, stress, and other mental health factors that we've had to deal with on an increasing basis. The pandemic has served to accelerate that and create greater demands on business leaders and us in the industry where we deal with people, both from our own internal staff perspective, our own personal situation, and the clients and the associates and candidates that we work with on a day-to-day basis have created a need for us as leaders to recognize the symptoms and figure out ways how to deal with those challenges. So I think we also have a duty to ensure that we provide some assistance both to our staff and an ability to recognize that with the associates that we are placing, and ensuring that the environment we're going to be placing them in is going to be something that is consistent or something that they are able to handle.
Thanks, Ted. So some great points there. And Fernando, just interested to get your take on that. So do you believe that actually taking a lead on the mental health agenda is an opportunity for industry leaders, not just in our sector, but maybe across the board? How do you see that playing out in Brazil?
I think everything that could be good for the relationship between employers and employees will be approved, will be supported, will be work.
Great. And let's stay with you, Fernando, and perhaps reflect on some of the other challenges that you see for the business community and the HR services sector in Brazil.
The main challenges will be to improve strategies in people, management, develop and innovate in balanced mindset, and adapt the routines of the recruitment and selection process. The evolution will happen with access to technology and mainly in the development of new tools.
Yes, and that really ties in with the feedback we've had from industry leaders around the world, notably in terms of a new leadership mindset, a whole new focus on what does good people management look like, and as part of that, reviewing how you hire and what procedures you put in place. So thanks for that, Fernando. Jakob, coming over to you in Denmark, what's your take on that in terms of emerging challenges going forward?
Well, for that, as a challenge for us as an employer, it's very much a question of compliance. I think how can you grow within the regulations that I have to abide by? So a lot of counseling for our members and how to live up to sometimes quite complex collective labor agreements, and to get the recognition from different stakeholders, from unions, from government institutions that we are providing good jobs and are helping. That is an issue.
Great stuff. And we're coming towards the end of the podcast now, but let's jump back over to Brazil and Fernando. And literally in a couple of words, what would be some of the ways that the HR services sector can make an impact and help to overcome some of these world of work challenges going forward?
Seek continuous improvement and progress in each issues related to automation and information technology.
So you think technology is the way forward for our sector?
Yeah.
Great. And Ted, turning to you, how do we square this focus on empathy, being people-centered, and the focus on technology that Fernando just mentioned?
The challenge is going to be, how do we develop that rapport relationship with candidates and clients in spite of the technology? So this high-tech, high-touch concept, which seems antithetical at first, is something that we're going to have to struggle with, and we're going to have to hire people that can overcome the limitations of not being able to be physically in touch or be present with those candidates and clients, and yet still make them feel that they are not a commodity, but a real-life human being that we are interested in helping either provide the talent to or provide a job for.
Great stuff. And Jakob, let's move over to you. And as we move through 2021, what is your rallying call to the global HR services sector? So hit us with your best shot, Jakob.
Yes, I think it's very much about showing the value that we have for creating the well-functioning labor market. To do the quick matching, to show that we create jobs in ourselves, that if we were not there, a lot of tasks would have been difficult to get done, and that we are supplying these flexible solutions in very, very well-ordered, structured way. So I think it's a little about showing the value that we have to the labor market to make people more aware of how important we actually are in getting things done, but also getting people into work.
Great stuff. And Ted, any final message of hope from you over there in Canada?
We are going to overcome COVID. I think different countries in different ways, perhaps different timelines, but I'm forever a optimist. So the opportunity exists to truly deliver on the value proposition of we as an industry provide to companies. And that's that flexibility of a workforce that can increase or decrease depending on the requirements.
And that's a wrap. And a couple of takeaways from today's session. First of all, as we move towards higher skilled economies and jobs markets, there's a real opportunity for the HR services sector to step on and provide that level of staff. I guess the other message was around mental health and well-being, and that's been at the heart of the World Employment Confederation's Alliance project from the very start. I look forward to catching up on the next episode of Worldviews on the World of Work, and in the meantime, let me give a big thank you to our participants today. Thank you, Jakob, thank you, Ted, and thank you, Fernando.
Okay, my friends. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. Be sure to visit www.wecglobal.org to access the other episodes and also our blog post, The Notes on the New Normal, for further insights. Until next time.